Don't tell me there's nothing to do here in St. Louis. Tonight at the St. Louis County Library, 7 o'clock, New York Times best-selling author Blaine Harden is going to be in town to talk about his new book, Escape from Camp 14. It's an unbelievable story about one man's ride to freedom. Blaine Harden, thanks for joining us here at the Big 550 KTRS.
My pleasure.
The story is, quickly, it's about this young boy born in a North Korean concentration camp and escaped 20-some-odd years later. Blaine, how did you come to find out about this story?
I was working for the Washington Post in Northeast Asia, and my job was to try to tell news stories about North Korea. I met Shin in Seoul in 2008, and we started working on a book that year. He's a traumatized young man, and it took about 2.5 years of interviews to get the story from him.
The story, tell us the story in broad strokes. He was born in this camp in 1982.
In broad strokes, he's the only known individual to be born in one of these political labor camps in North Korea to escape to the West. The camps have existed for almost 60 years. There are 6 of them, and they imprison around 200,000 people. And they've been doing so for more than half a century, and he is the only person born in these camps to escape. He's basically in a category of 1 on this planet.
People have compared your book, Escape from Camp 14, to the Diary of Anne Frank because it tells us about a world that we know very little about.
Well, I don't know if that comparison is valid, but what he does is he brings real news about how the North Koreans have operated these camps. And I think the most interesting news is that they are breeding children in the camp, like hogs in a hog farm in Missouri. The guards choose parents and require them to have sex. Shin is the result of such a union.
North Korea clearly doesn't even acknowledge these camps exist.
They officially deny that the camps exist, and they have continued to do so as the evidence has mounted that that the camps really are there. There's incredibly detailed satellite pictures of the camps in real time that every week show that the camps are there, and in fact they are expanding.
What lands you in this camp?
What lands you in the camp is to be a perceived political enemy of the state. That means that someone could snitch on you, saying that you'd said something that was disloyal to the Kim family dynasty. You may have spoken out against the government. And the way the system works, in many cases, if, for example, I were to say that Kim Jong-un, the current leader of the country, is fat and incompetent, I would go to the camp. Very likely my children would go to the camp, along with my parents, and we would all go there and be worked to death. We'd be taken away in the middle of the night without trial to a camp that North Korea says does not exist.
The book is called Escape from Camp 14. It was a New York Times bestseller. Blaine Harden is the author. He's with us, and he's going to be at the St. Louis County Library tonight for a book signing and a book reading. Blaine, I understand that. I don't understand why they're breeding more children in that camp. What diabolical reason do they have for that?
Well, they've never given an official reason for anything that they do, but one can surmise that they do it for 2 reasons. They have young adults in the camps for life, and many of them actually work at semi-skilled jobs. And as they approach their 20s and 30s, sex is something that they think about and would like to participate in, like all human beings. The rules of the camp say without authorization, sex is illegal, punishable by death. So good workers are rewarded and motivated to do good work by being given what are called reward marriages, which means that the guards have sanctified a union between a man and a woman. Secondly, they produce children who are raised in the camps and who are completely malleable because their values come from the guards who are their breeders. And Shin Dong-yuk, the central character in my book, was very much a creation of the guards. His values were the values that the guards had taught him for almost all of his life.
What's amazing to me, Blaine Harden, is that Shin was able to escape and sort of figure out there was a world outside of that camp?
He was a very lucky guy, and his luck consists of a couple things. He's very intelligent, a gift from God. He's just really a bright guy. And when he was 23 years old, he met a newcomer to the camp, someone who knew what was going on beyond the barbed wire outside of Camp 14. This newcomer told him about the existence of China, told him that the world was round, which was news to Shin, but also told him that if he got out, he could eat grilled meat in China. That was what piqued Shin's interest, and he began dreaming about good food, particularly grilled meat, and then he asked Park to escape with him. And they tried to do so on January 2nd, 2005.
And grilled meat, that was his reason for risking his life.
He wasn't interested in the Magna Carta or the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights. He was interested in grilled meat.
So he was so hungry and starving to death that grilled meat is what he risked his life for.
Yes.
He turned his own family in, did he not?
Yeah. As I said, that he was raised by the guards to believe in the rules that the guards taught him. The first rule of the camp is if you try to escape, you'll be shot. If you hear about people talking about escape and fail to report it, you'll be shot. When he was 13, he heard his mother and brother talking about a plan to escape. He immediately reported them, and they were later executed in front of him.
How was he even standing today, no less a functioning member of the 21st century?
He was very lucky to get out of North Korea. His timing was good. When he went through the fence in 2005, it was possible to move through North Korea as a trader, which he pretended to be. The economy of North Korea below the police state is a scruffy free market economy with smuggled goods from China. He fell in with traders who moved back and forth across that border, and he managed to sort of slip with them north across the border into China. He was just incredibly lucky. Right now, if someone were to escape and try that, crossing the border would be almost impossible.
And right now, he's a human rights activist.
He's very much a human rights activist. He has worked almost continually since he's gotten out. He's become more effective as he's become more psychologically balanced. It's just a matter of time. But he's very bright, and he learns quickly. He has been traveling the entire past year talking about what goes on in the camps. And I must say he and the book have been very effective in changing world opinion. 2 weeks ago, the UN Human Rights Council meeting in Geneva voted for the first time to create a commission of investigation which will prepare indictments for the Kim family and will probably be heard at The Hague sometime in the next few years. And in large measure, that's because of Shin's story.
The book is called Escape from Camp 14. Blaine Harden, our guest, he'll be in St. Louis tonight for a book signing and a book conversation at St. Louis County Library right next to right in St. Louis County Library, right next to Schneidhorst there on Lindbergh. Blaine Harden, the book is Escape from Camp 14. You said there are 6 camps. Why is this one named 14?
Well, they have a sort of a random set of numbers associated to them, and they're not numbered 1 through 6 or 8 through 14. There used to be more. They periodically close them and open them. But the camps as a system of punishment of perceived political enemies has existed inside North Korea since at least the late 1950s. And what's interesting about the camps is that their existence has been known in South Korea and to people interested in human rights around the world. But Americans in particular, and many Europeans, were ignorant of their existence and paid no attention to them, particularly the foreign policies of a country like the United States. Human rights was not a big player in formulating policy towards North Korea. Now, that's changed in part because of Shin's story, which is just, once you read it, it's so horrifying that human rights has to be part of the calculus now in dealing with North Korea.
And you're saying how many North Koreans are still in these camps?
Well, there's not an exact number, but you can actually see them in satellite images now. The best estimates from the South Korean government and the U.S. State Department are between 150 and 200,000 people. And there's evidence that in the past year, since Kim Jong-un took over for his father, who died in December of 2011, that two of the camps, including Camp 14, have expanded, and the satellite images show that the fence has grown around the camp.
Blaine Harden, how hard was it to get Shin to sit down and tell you the story?
Well, as you might imagine, he was a very traumatized, suspicious, wary, distrustful young man. And he didn't like journalists. He didn't like me. It took a lot of time and patience, but mostly it took the persuasive influence of the human rights community and human rights organizations, who knew that Shin's story had this almost magical ability to hook the interest of people who are not interested in foreign policy or simply interested in stories about people. So they pushed him and and finally persuaded him to cooperate. And then once he started to cooperate, it took about 2.5 years of interviews, off and on in South Korea, in Southern California, and in Seattle before I finally got the whole story.
The book is called Escape from Camp 14. Blaine Harden, the author, tells the story of Shin, this boy born in a North Korean camp and escaped in 2005. Blaine, any talk of movie rights or making a movie out of this?
Well, there's an option for the movie, and there's hope of funding. And we don't have it all together, but it seems to be moving forward. For people who are interested in his story, there already is a very good documentary in which Shin is the star, and it's called Camp 14 Total Control Zone, and you can watch it on Netflix.
The book is called Escape from Camp 14. Blaine Harden, our guest. And, Blaine, we will see you tonight at St. Louis County Library at 7 o'clock for a book signing and a book reading. Everyone is invited. Blaine, have a good trip to St. Louis, and we'll see you tonight.
Thank you so much.
Escape from Camp 14, one man's remarkable odyssey from North Korea to freedom in the West. Author Blaine Harden tonight, St. Louis County Library, 7 o'clock. We'll see you there. Back in a moment on KTRS.